In early October, a 38-year-old Atlanta, Georgia man named Benjamin Michael Campbell was arrested for tearing down a pro-Trump banner at a rafting business in Swain County, North Carolina, leading to an exchange of gunfire with the owner. Deputies had responded to a report of shots fired at the business about a month earlier, but by the time they arrived, the suspect had left the scene in his vehicle several days later. CCTV footage of the altercation surfaced online. In the video, the perpetrator could be seen slamming on the brakes of his Jeep, exiting the vehicle and approaching the business on foot from across the street. The store's owner, Mark Thomas, was watching on his security cameras as the suspect tore down the sign, prompting Thomas to exit the building with his rifle and fire 2 warning shots into the air. Campbell, who works as an accountant by day, allegedly fired several shots in response. He was arrested in Cobb County, Georgia after being identified as the man in the video and was extradited to North Carolina, where he was freed from custody after posting a $70,000 bond. Number 20. Terrorizing Trio.
If this door doesn't open, we're gonna come in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll be back.
As the 2025 Halloween holiday approached, a trio of masked suspects terrorized a Virginia widow at her home. The incident was captured on doorbell camera video, which showed the perpetrators, who were dressed as a clown, a nun, and Michael Myers, trying to break into the woman's Alexandria residence at around 10 p.m. while threatening to kill everyone inside. After initially mistaking the visit for a harmless holiday prank, the homeowner's daughter, Shayla, told the unwanted visitors to leave, but they refused to vacate the premises and continued to knock on the door, even after Shayla threatened to call the police. At one point, one of the suspects could be heard saying, "If you don't come out, we'll come in."
Open the door! Open the door! Open the door!
They then made their way to the back of the house, where they broke through a wooden fence, pounded on windows, and slashed deck screens. The harassment and intimidation lasted for around 10 minutes before the trio finally left, and police are reportedly working to identify the suspects. Number 19. Dylan Lang. Fed up with his mother's late-night romantic trysts, a Pennsylvania man shot his mum's lover during a steamy rendezvous in the victim's vehicle in late October. Police responded to the scene in Jackson Township after receiving a 911 call from 24-year-old Dylan Lang, who confessed to killing 55-year-old Robert Hagan Jr. after discovering the victim and his mother mid-hookup and flying into a rage. Officers arrived at the scene shortly before 4 a.m. and found Hagan dead in his pickup truck in the front yard. The driver's side door was open, the rear driver's side window was shattered, and Hagan's pants were around his ankles. Lang's mother told police that her son approached the vehicle with a gun that had a flashlight attached to it and ordered Hagan to get off his mother. Hagan complied, but Lang's rampage continued as his mother pleaded with him to stop. After being shot twice in the upper torso, Hagan drive back in his truck out of the driveway, but he fell unconscious with his foot on the gas pedal due to his injuries, causing the truck to veer into the front yard. Lang's mother managed to stop the vehicle by moving Hagan's foot off the pedal and pushing down on the brake with her hand. She ordered her son to call 911, and Lang confessed to the shooting during his conversation with the dispatcher. He was booked into the Cambria County Prison, where he remains in custody on suspicion of criminal homicide, aggravated assault, and recklessly endangering another person. Number 18. Kenneth Leland Morgan. A Georgia man made a few poor judgment calls as Halloween approached, the first of them being his choice to wear a Nazi costume in celebration of the holiday. 33-year-old Kenneth Leland Morgan then tried visiting a bar in Athens, where multiple enraged patrons expressed their outrage toward his Gestapo getup and prevented him from entering the business. The confrontation was captured on video, which showed a woman repeatedly ordering Morgan to get out of the pub while pushing him away from the entrance. Instead of complying, Morgan put his hand on the woman and smiled, while bystanders yelled at him not to touch her. In the footage, he appears to smash a beer pitcher into the woman's face, breaking her nose. The victim, 23-year-old University of Georgia student Grace Lang, later told the college's red and black newspaper that she tried ripping Morgan's swastika armband off and that he grinned from ear to ear throughout the entire confrontation. Morgan was arrested on suspicion of felony aggravated assault and misdemeanor battery, and the pub's owner and manager have made it clear that they disapproved of his actions and never allowed him into the bar. Some have argued that the Nazi uniform was just a Halloween costume, while others believe that there's no acceptable situation for donning hateful attire. He's currently free on bond and has raised more than $17,000 in donations toward his legal fees from his supporters. Number 17. Ximena Arias-Cristobal. In a case that made national news headlines in early May, a Georgia college student was held on an immigration detainer after authorities discovered that she was in the US illegally. The incident that paved the way for 19-year-old Ximena Arias-Cristobal's potential deportation began when Officer Leslie O'Neill pulled her over in Whitfield County for a suspected illegal turn. She was booked into county lockup for driving without a license and making an improper turn before being turned over to federal immigration authorities. Arias-Cristobal spent the next 2 weeks at the Stewart Detention Center in Lumpkin before being granted bond. Despite her undocumented status, she garnered widespread support from members of the public who sympathized with her situation. In the meantime, Officer O'Neill faced criticism and backlash after his superiors reviewed the traffic stop and determined that he had arrested Arias-Cristobal in a case of mistaken identity. He resigned from the police force several weeks after the incident. The traffic charges against Arias-Cristobal were dropped, but the deportation proceedings against her are ongoing. The young woman is fighting to stay permanently in the United States, while the Department of Homeland Security has encouraged Arias-Cristobal and her family to voluntarily self-deport. Number 16. Yoan Soto. 21-year-old Yoan Soto was working the overnight shift at a McDonald's restaurant in Davenport, Florida on October 12th when an early morning rush caused longer than usual wait times for customers. By the time 19-year-old Peter Story and 18-year-old Nicholas Jones pulled up to the drive-through window, employees had stopped taking orders. Soto delivered the bad news, which apparently angered Story and Jones. The men reportedly became argumentative, threatening to beat Soto up and telling him that they had guns. Soto replied that he was also armed, and the suspects warned that they would be waiting for him in the parking lot when his shift ended. As Soto explained the incident to his manager, Story and Jones entered the restaurant. The argument resumed, soon escalated into threats of violence. Soto's manager ordered the two men to leave, but they allegedly refused, saying that only law enforcement would force them off the property. As the manager tried to de-escalate the situation, Soto retrieved a gun from the back room and came back to the counter with the weapon pointed at the unwelcome guests. The gun discharged, striking Story in the neck, at which point he and Jones left the scene. He was treated for a non-life-threatening injury, and both men are facing trespassing and disorderly conduct charges, while Soto faces an evidence tampering charge for removing a bullet casing from the scene. Number 15. David Scott Jr. A Michigan dad was so furious that his child wasn't given a treat at snack time that he went to the kid's school and threatened a mass shooting. The bizarre yet terrifying confrontation took place in East Point in late October when 43-year-old David Scott Jr. went to Pleasant View Elementary School during the afternoon dismissal and lashed out at the child's first-grade teacher in front of staff members, students, and other parents. He reportedly told the teacher that he was going to return the following day and air the place out, which is slang for a shooting or a violent act. A law enforcement spokesperson later told local news outlet WDIV that Scott's child was not singled out and that a new teacher had stopped allowing students extra time for snacks after their daily lunch period. While executing a search warrant at Scott's home, police found multiple rounds of ammunition. He faces multiple charges as a habitual offender, including ammunition possession by a prohibited person, intentional threat to commit an act of violence against the school, and disorderly conduct. Scott remains held at the Macomb County Jail with bond set at $150,000. He's been ordered to undergo a mental evaluation and will be required to wear an ankle monitor if he's released from custody. Number 14. Minor Catledge. In one of the latest Florida man stories to grace national news headlines, a 61-year-old Putnam County resident named Minor Catledge was arrested in October for brandishing a pair of pocket knives and threatening to eat his neighbor's dog. In a Facebook post, the Putnam County Sheriff's Office said that the female victim was walking her dog on a path adjacent to Catledge's property, which the suspect believed belonged to him. The neighbor accused Catledge of threatening to eat her dog if she trespassed again, but the dispute was temporarily smoothed over by responding members of law enforcement. Police were back at the scene about an hour later after receiving a second call from the victim, who claimed that Catledge had approached her family on their property and threatened them with knives. A responding officer noted hearing some of the threats firsthand, and Catledge was arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault with the intent to commit a felony. According to an arrest affidavit, he made spontaneous utterances during the ride to jail about how he would have to kill those people to survive and how he would have gutted them if they'd gone onto his property. Records show that Catledge is being held at the Putnam County Jail with bail set at $5,000. Number 13. Corree Gonzales. In what appears to be a random, unprovoked act of violence, former Fall River, Massachusetts Mayor Will Flanagan was stabbed in the neck outside his cannabis dispensary in late October. Surveillance footage shows the suspect rushing up to Flanagan from behind and making repeated striking motions to his head and neck. Flanagan made a visible attempt to protect himself from the assailant but fell to the ground and was found writhing on the pavement. He was taken to the hospital in serious but stable condition, and the accused stabber, 31-year-old Corree Gonzales, was arrested the following day. Gonzales faces charges stemming from the attack, along with 4 counts of assault and battery on a police officer for fighting with the cops who arrested him. According to current Fall River Mayor Paul Coogan, the suspect suffers from severe mental health issues. He remains in custody and has been ordered to undergo a mental evaluation as he awaits his next court hearing. Number 12. Michael Turner. Shortly before 3 a.m. on April 8th, Oklahoma City police responded to an unusual attempted burglary report at a local hotel, where they encountered a fully unclothed man standing at the front desk. Later identified as Michael Turner, the suspect refused to comply with officers' orders to kneel and be handcuffed. According to reports, Turner had broken down the front door, disrobed, and ordered the front desk clerk to hand over cash and her cell phone. As the police activated their tasers in preparation for possible use, he finally became compliant and was taken into custody without further incident. He was booked into the Oklahoma County Jail, where he remains in custody on charges of first-degree robbery and domestic violence with bail set at $30,000. Number 11. Chuanying He. Police in Newport Richey, Florida, encountered an unusual situation in late August when officers responded to a 911 call from 50-year-old Chuanying He. According to law enforcement, he poured sulfuric acid onto her sleeping husband, Robert Hayden, while he was in bed, then barricaded the bedroom door and called the police. The victim was found clinging to life with severe chemical burns and succumbed to his injuries several days later after being airlifted to the hospital. He is facing charges of first-degree homicide and aggravated battery causing bodily harm. In October, prosecutors announced their intent to seek the death penalty based on several aggravating circumstances, including the especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel nature of the crime and the cold, calculated, and premeditated nature in which it was committed. He is also accused of killing Hayden for pecuniary gain and to disrupt or hinder a governmental function and or the enforcement of laws. The inherently complicated nature of death penalty proceedings could likely prolong the case. In the meantime, he remains held without bond at the Pasco County Detention Center while awaiting a pretrial conference. Number 10. Chazzity Candelario. Just days into the 2025 new year, police responded to a home in North Lebanon Township, Pennsylvania, where they were met by a group of siblings. The children led officers into a bedroom where their brother was handcuffed to a bunk bed. The boy told law enforcement that he had previously been chained to an oil tank in the basement and had broken free before accidentally handcuffing himself to the bed. He said that his mother kept him chained for up to 2 hours at a time while she was at her job. On that particular day, he was being punished for eating too many hot dogs. Officers contacted the boy's mother, 33-year-old Chazzity Candelario, who ordered the police not to speak to her other children until she returned home. She later told law enforcement that her son's behavior had spiraled out of control, prompting her decision to lock him up while she was at work. Candelario was booked into custody on charges of unlawful restraint of a minor and false imprisonment of a minor. Records indicate that she's currently free on bond amid the ongoing case. Number 9. Brynn Gifford. A Florida woman recently helped orchestrate her own arrest after identifying herself as a suspected thief in an online post. 19-year-old Brynn Gifford's alleged crimes fell under investigation in early August, when a woman realized that her credit card had been stolen at a nail salon in Palm Coast. The victim then discovered that someone had made hundreds of dollars in fraudulent purchases throughout the area over a 3-day period. Investigators obtained surveillance footage of the suspect using the stolen card at several businesses, but they were unable to identify her on their own, so they turned to the public for help. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office posted a still image from the security video on Facebook, and to their surprise, Gifford soon called the law enforcement agency and admitted to being the person in the footage. As it turned out, Gifford had been working as the nail salon's receptionist when the credit card was stolen. She initially denied any wrongdoing, but eventually acknowledged that she had used the card to buy items at Walmart. Detectives found some of the ill-gotten merchandise while searching her backpack, and Gifford was charged with fraudulent use of personal identification information of a person 60 years of age or older, fraudulent use of a credit card more than 2 times in 6 months, and petty theft. Number 8. Craig Vogt. Angry that his neighbor kept feeding his pet peacocks, a Florida man killed, cooked, and ate 2 of the birds before threatening to do it again. According to an arrest affidavit, 61-year-old Craig Vogt wrote his neighbor a letter telling her what he had done and stating that he would kill more of his peacocks if she continued feeding them. Following his arrest on September 23rd, Vogt admitted to cutting one of the birds' necks, letting the animal bleed out and cooking it in a frying pan. While being taken into custody, he reportedly threatened to kill the rest of his peacocks after getting out of jail to prevent anyone from taking them. Vogt has a lengthy history of past arrests dating back to the 1990s, including previous cases for trespassing, violating an injunction with intent, intimidation, battery, assault, and being an out-of-state fugitive. Following his most recent arrest, he pleaded not guilty to aggravated animal cruelty and was released after posting a $2,500 bond. The case is ongoing and the fate of the remaining peacocks is unclear. Number 7. Fredrick Riley. In late August, the Georgia man was arrested for repeatedly accepting delivery orders in the nude at his Coweta County home. 2 of the incidents occurred on the same night, prompting complaints from 2 female food delivery drivers, including one woman who claimed that the suspects had invited her inside. Suspecting that the unclothed man would strike again, the sheriff's office sent a female deputy to the residence. Posing as a DoorDash driver, she knocked on the door. About a minute later, 65-year-old Fredrick Riley answered the door. Completely naked, in body cam footage of the visit, Riley could be heard saying that he couldn't come outside because he didn't have any clothes on. He remained calm throughout his arrest for public indecency and was released from jail on a $1,200 bond. Number 6. Brian Wilks and Sara Sommers Wilks. Texas couple are facing charges for leaving their infant unattended for nearly an hour at Miramar Beach in the Florida Panhandle. In mid-October, the Walton County Sheriff's Office revealed in a Facebook post that deputies responded to the scene at around noon after witnesses reported seeing the couple walk off with their 3 other children. Law enforcement arrived to find the 6-month-old child being cared for by Good Samaritans, so they waited for the mother and father to return. The baby's parents, 40-year-old Brian Wilks and 37-year-old Sara Sommers Wilks, explained that their child usually naps at around the time they went for a walk. They said that their older children had run off and that they joined them for a walk before losing track of the time. Brian and Sara were charged with child neglect without great bodily harm and were released from jail the following day. In the meantime, the baby was taken into the care of child services and later turned over to a relative. Public opinion on the case has been divided, with some saying that it would have been typical for a parent to do something like this decades ago, while others maintain that leaving such a young child alone is unacceptable under any circumstances. Number 5. Davarius James. 38-year-old Davarius James was already on parole for a previous crime when he was arrested in February for beating his girlfriend of 2 years to death. According to a probable cause affidavit, police responded to the couple's Pensacola residence at around 7:00 a.m. and found 50-year-old Claudette Robinson dead with blunt force injuries to the face and chest. James claimed that Robinson's injuries were caused during an argument the night before after he got upset at her for giving his belongings away without his permission. He told police that Robinson fell and hit the back of her head when he tried to grab her arm and that she got back up but fell for a second time After staggering to the bathroom, Robinson exhibited worsening symptoms throughout the night, but she was still breathing, so James refrained from calling for help. After visiting his parole officer the next morning, James said he returned to find Robinson stiff and unresponsive. A search of his phone revealed that he conducted a Google search stating that he had performed CPR hours ago and trying to figure out why it wasn't working. In late October, a jury found James guilty of second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. He's currently awaiting sentencing and will face a maximum sentence of 22 years in prison if the judge goes with the jury's recommended punishment. Number 4. Evelyn Sis. A Nashville, Tennessee homeowner narrowly avoided injury when an underage drunk driver plowed their vehicle through her roof at over 100 miles per hour on a Sunday morning in October. Jennifer Pittman had just left her bedroom with her dogs at around 8 a.m. when the vehicle veered off a nearby road, struck an embankment, and nose-dived into the one-story residence. Pittman's home was severely damaged, but luckily she and her pets emerged unscathed. The teenage driver, Evelyn Sis, was hospitalized with a broken neck while a passenger suffered minor injuries. She has been charged with driving under the influence, drinking under the age of 21, driving without a license, and reckless endangerment. The unusual accident came as no surprise to longtime residents who say that intoxicated speeding is a growing problem along their road. In the aftermath of the wreck, community members are urging law enforcement to step up their patrols in the area. Number 3. Louvre Heist. On what began as an ordinary morning on October 19th, a group of thieves disguised as construction workers entered the Louvre Museum in Paris through a first-story balcony using a furniture lift. They stole over $100 million worth of royal gems, including a tiara and a brooch belonging to Empress Eugenie, and an emerald necklace and earrings from Empress Marie-Louise. Authorities scrambled to catch the thieves and retrieve the priceless crown gems as the country's cultural minister publicly admitted that decades of security shortcomings were partially to blame for the highly organized heist. 7 suspects have been arrested in connection with the brazen robbery, including 2 primary conspirators, one of which is facing an organized crime charge while the other is accused of criminal conspiracy. Little else is known about the suspects, who are reportedly 37 and 38 years old. They both denied any involvement in the crime during their initial court hearings, while 2 other suspects have partially admitted to their roles in the theft. The investigation is ongoing and only some of the stolen items have been recovered thus far. Number 2. Asif Qureshi. Women are significantly more likely to choose poisoning as a way to murder someone than men, making for an unusual case when it comes to the recent case of a Long Island, New York man who was accused of killing his wife with a cyanide-like substance at the couple's Nassau County home. Just days earlier, 53-year-old Asif Qureshi had been served with divorce papers by his estranged spouse, 46-year-old Alina Asif. He moved out of the marital home but proceeded to stalk Alina for several days leading up to the attack, according to police. Asif had just returned home from dropping the couple's child off at school and was at the residence alone when she was doused with the toxic substance that claimed her life. By the time her adult daughter discovered her body hours later, it was far too late to perform life-saving measures. Records point toward a history of marital problems, with Asif requesting divorce from Qureshi in 2023 before the pair apparently reconciled. Qureshi is being held without bond on suspicion of second-degree murder, while prosecutors fight to upgrade the charge to first-degree murder. Number 1. Florida Sneaker Heist. Authorities in Martin County, Florida are on the lookout for a group of sophisticated sneaker thieves who stole hundreds of pairs of Nike sneakers from a Champs sporting goods store at the Treasure Coast Mall. The footwear heist took place sometime between midnight and 8 a.m. on October 21st, with the suspects gaining entry into the store by cutting a hole through the roof. They systematically bagged the ill-gotten merchandise, loaded it into a getaway vehicle, and fled the scene, with the value of the stolen sneakers estimated at somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000. During a press conference, Martin County Sheriff John Budensyke said that there was no reason to believe that the burglary was an inside job, while acknowledging that the suspects knew enough to target the business's storage room rather than the main shopping area. Police are working to identify the sneaker thieves, who remain at large, and law enforcement is urging anyone with information to come forward. Thanks for watching. In your opinion, which case should have made the list that didn't? Let us know in the comments section below.